NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bringing your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. Okay, so originally this episode was going to be about my Eastern Conference predictions and what my rankings were going to be, and I kind of thought about it. I said, well, we all know the Cavs are going to be the best team in the East, and then, you got teams like the Raptors, Celtics, and Pacers are all going to be good, and then everyone else is just kind of bland. I said, that's really not going to be that much fun. So what I'm decided to do instead is, since preseason has just come to a close, I said, why don't I do my episode about my overall impressions of this Nets team based off of their preseason? So that's what this video is going to be about. I think it's a little bit more fun. I watched 5 of the 6 preseason games with the Nets, so I got a decent understanding of what this team looked like, at least in the preseason, and I think the rotation that Kenny Atkinson is going to use, and at least to start off, obviously anything can happen during the season, and got a pretty decent understanding of what I think this Nets team is going to be about. So I said, let's make this episode be about that. So the Nets went 1-5 in the preseason. Their only win came to the very first preseason game when they beat the Pistons. They lost to the Celtics twice, they lost to the Knicks twice, and then they lost to the Heat. You can never look too much into preseason because preseason is preseason, but a couple of those games, like the one game against the Celtics and the last game against the Knicks, I really feel the Nets could have easily have won those games. But, it's preseason. Atkinson wasn't really going to roll with his main guys with playing significant minutes. No team really was. If anything, it means that other team scrubs are better than the Nets scrubs. That's really what it means. So I'm not going to get too much into the 1-5 record that the Nets had. I think it's kind of expected. We've kind of established that this Nets team is not going to be that good. So I think personally, I thought they could have easily have gone 3-3 in the preseason. But like I said, I'm not going to harp on their record because it's preseason and everyone is only giving it about 80% unless you're a player trying to make the team. So not go too much into that. But I was able to get some takeaways from this Nets team. And there's a couple things. The first thing was the offense. I like this offense. I like this free-flowing, 3-shooting team, getting everybody involved. I think it's a complete 180 from the, post-up isolation type of offense that Lionel Hollins ran, before he got fired, and that the Nets had throughout most of the years, which I understand why the Nets did that, because when you have a player like Brook Lopez, who is as good of a low post player as he is, you do want to isolate him one-on-one more often. But I think Lopez has proven he's more of a versatile offensive player, and he can play in the pick and roll, and apparently he's shooting threes now, which I think is great, but it remains to be seen how well he does at it. Kenny Atkinson has given Lopez the green light. Really, everyone on the Nets team has a green light to shoot threes. That's part of their strategy. And I think Lopez made 2 of them. I think it was 2 for 9 from 3. So we'll see. You know what? If he's open, we might as well take it. But I just like this offense. I like the pick and rolls, the screening, the rotations, the weak side cuts, the ball movement is so nice, and it's so nice to see that after what we've seen in the last few years from the Nets offense. And I like that they're a 3-shooting team. Look, that's the way the NBA is now. A lot of teams live and die by the 3, and that's the way this Nets team appears that it's going to be. That's a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because when you live and die by the 3, that's the definition. You live and die. You can beat almost anybody. If you're making your threes, you can beat almost any team in the NBA, which is what I think this Nets team is capable of doing because of that. But that being said, when those threes aren't falling, this team is going to be terrible. Because then the only other way of really scoring is getting the ball down to Brook Lopez or maybe a pick and roll with Jeremy Lin. But I like the offense. I like these players. Everyone on the Nets is capable of making the 3, except you can maybe make a case that, Ronnie Hollis-Jefferson really can't, even though he has taken a couple threes, and obviously you wouldn't say Lopez is a 3-shooter, but everyone else who's on this team is capable of making the 3-point ball. Even Luis Scola, which I never knew he was really that much of a three shooter. Apparently, the last year was his first year he started really taking a lot of threes, and he's not bad at it. So I like the offense. That's my first takeaway. My second takeaway, though, is this team can't play defense at all, and that's a problem. When you're a team that has below average talent like the Nets have, you need to be a good defensive unit, and they are really not that good. Now, the rotation wasn't really set. The guys haven't really played a lot together, so I get it. It will take time for the defense to maybe figure it out, but this team is just not a good defensive team. I mean, they have moments where they look okay, but then they have moments that they just look very bad. And no one other than Brook Lopez is a shot blocker. And Lopez, Lopez isn't even a great shot blocker. He's a good shot blocker. I think he averaged like 2.3 blocks last season, so he's a good shot blocker, but he's not a great shot blocker. But no one else can really block a shot. And other than Trevor Booker, no one else can really get a rebound, which is something else I noticed when they had the Lopez-Justin Hamilton lineup out there. Oof, constantly getting out hustled on the boards. It's Lopez. He's one of my favorite players, and I always feel that he's better than his 7 rebounds a game, but I guess he really isn't. He's not a double-digit rebound guy. He gives you 7 or 8 rebounds tops. And I know last year he averaged 7.8, which is good, but that's not great. Actually, it's just okay for a 7-footer. And Justin Hamilton, he's not very good at rebounds either. And, he's a more finesse player. So that lineup, especially in this last game against the Knicks, I saw it very evident that they are going to struggle on the boards when Trevor Booker is not out there. Luis Scola is an okay rebounder, but he's not a great one either. And Anthony Bennett, I finally figured out why I don't like Anthony Bennett, because obviously I didn't like him. I don't like him because I think he's a bust, and I think he's not going to be that great. For someone who's as big and strong as he appears to be, he plays so soft. It's like he doesn't even exist. He's shooting threes, playing perimeter, gets out hustled on the board. This is a guy who's built like Charles Barkley. Like, that's when I see Anthony Bennett, and I think that's why he was the first overall pick, people were thinking like an Elton Brand type player, or a little bit more slightly taller Charles Barkley. I thought Elton Brand was the best comparison to when Anthony Bennett came into the league, but he plays so soft. He constantly getting out hustled and out muscled. He's a big body. Get tough, get a rebound, be physical. So I honestly don't think Anthony Bennett is going to stick with the Nets too long. He's okay in the role that he is right now, which is, I think, an 11th man type player. I never understood why he wasn't able to make it, because he has the skill set, but he's too soft. He plays too soft. So he's not a good rebounder. So my point is, the Nets, I think, might struggle on the boards as well. They're really going to need Trevor Booker to get average 12, 13 rebounds a game. Or Lopez needs to start getting some rebounds, like I still think he's capable of. Or they need to rebound as a whole. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson and Bojan Bogdanovic and all the guards need to rebound. That's the only way the Nets are going to be able to do it. And then the last takeaway I have is more of the individual player performances. And I have to be honest, there was really no player other than really Anthony Bennett who I said, this guy is bad. This guy's going to stink. I think they're all got their upside. My boy Isaiah Whitehead looked absolutely terrible, which I knew was going to happen. I mean, to be honest, Isaiah should have stayed in college one more year. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Seton Hall basketball fan, but he wasn't quite ready for the NBA. I think he got Lance Stevenson in his head, because Lance Stevenson said, well, everyone said that I wasn't going to be very good, and I was a second-round draft pick, and blah, blah, this, and I thought I was ready. Look at where you are now, Lance Stevenson. I don't even think he's with a team. And remember, Lance Stevenson was a second-round draft pick, and he didn't really crack the rotation until his third or fourth year in the league with Indiana. Then he had, of course, the good year with Indiana, and he hasn't been able to find the same type of role or success anywhere else. I don't think Isaiah Whitehead's going to be like that, but my point is, Lance Stevenson left college way too early, and I think Isaiah Whitehead left college way too early. I'm rooting for him because I'm a Nets fan and I'm a Seton Hall fan and I got to watch him, but he really should have stayed one more year. I think you have to look at it this way. Isaiah Whitehead, he literally learned the point guard position his sophomore year in college. So he just learned how to be a point guard at the collegiate level. Now he's jumping to try to learn to be a point guard in the NBA level without really mastering. Like, he figured out how to be a good point guard in the collegiate level, but he didn't master it yet. So he shouldn't have gone up to the NBA until he mastered it. He should have played one more year, personal opinion of mine. Plus, Seton Hall with Isaiah Whitehead this year would be a top 25 team easily and be competing for the Big East championship again. Instead, now who knows what they'll do. They might be still a good team because they still have a lot of good players. Beside the point, this got a little sidetracked. So I'm not shocked, though, that Isaiah Whitehead struggled as much as he did. And I think he's going to struggle much of this season. As a matter of fact, he's probably going to be in the D League for a good chunk of the season. I think Kenny Atkinson said the plan is that him and Chris McCullough might go back and forth between the D League and the main roster depending on injury. I think that's fine. Isaiah Whitehead's a player I think will be very solid in the NBA, but he needs about 2 to 3 years before you're going to start seeing it. Because like I said, he came out too early, and the struggles for him to try to learn how to be an NBA point guard when he just kind of figured out how to be a collegiate point guard, I'm not surprised. So, it will be exciting to see him whenever he does play, but I think off the bat, you're probably going to see him in the D League, and you'll only probably see him if there's an injury. And I think that's good. I think he's got to learn how to be a point guard in the NBA. Other players to take away, Jeremy Lin, I think he looks really good, really solid. I think he looks like a quality starting point guard. I think he's capable of that 16 to 18 and 7 performance. I think that he's going to do. I think he's going to have games where he's going to go off and score 30 points a game, 35 points a game. I think he's going to carry the Nets in some games, and I think there's going to be some games he's going to struggle. The last game against the Knicks, he had almost, 9 turnovers. He really struggled, and that's not even being sarcastic. I think he had 9 turnovers. He also had, 10 assists or something like that, but he's trying to do a little bit too much, and I think he's trying to find his niche as being the starting main point guard. So I think Jeremy Lin is capable of being a 20 and 10 point guard. I do. Watching him play, how often he's going to be the guy, he can put up 20 and 10, but he's going to have a lot of turnovers. He's going to average over 3 turnovers a game. I still think he's going to be more of a 16 to 18 point a game scorer, as well as a 7 assist guy. I think his assists are going to be pretty good, actually, because with this fast-paced, free-flow offense that the Nets have, he's getting a lot of assists. Like I said, I think he had 10 assists playing in about 22 minutes against the Knicks. So he's going to get his assists. But, I certainly do see him being the second best player on the Nets. He is the second best player. And I do see the potential of him being a very good player, maybe even a borderline all-star. I do see that potential. I don't know if it's going to happen. We'll have to see what happens when they actually Nets play, in the regular season. But in the preseason, he looked pretty good. His 3-ball looks good. His slashing looks good. His playmaking looks inconsistent, but still taking strides in the right direction. So I think Jeremy Lin is going to be a very good player, and I think he's definitely a solid point guard. I think he's going to create stability to that point guard position, and I think it works. Lopez, he's as good as he is. Trevor Booker, who played very well. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson we'll see if he takes his game to the next level. He's playing really good defense. Bogdanovich has played solid. I like how the confidence he has in his 3-point game. Justin Hamilton, I really like him. His ability to knock down the 3, I think is really impressive. Gravis Vasquez, I'm kind of like, I guess maybe I'm just my only real, experience with Gravis Vasquez was when the Nets played the Raptors 2-3 years ago in the first round of the playoffs, and Gravis Vasquez was fantastic. And that's why I thought he was going to be a really good player, because I remember he never missed a shot. He made all these crazy floaters, always made threes. He really beat up on the Nets and averaged 17 points a game coming off the bench for the Raptors. Or I think he was the starting 2-guard or something. Started with Kyle Lowry. And obviously he doesn't seem like he's that type of player anymore. That was from 2-3 years ago. I know he's been hurt, but he's kind of frustrating to watch, because that's what I remember of him. And obviously, he doesn't seem like he's that type of player. So I'm a little disappointed in how he played. But once again, it's preseason. Randy Foye, I think he's fine the way he is. I think he needs to look to score a little bit more. I think he's a little too passive. Randy Foye is such a versatile scorer that I feel like that he needs to be a little bit more offensive minded. And then Sean Kilpatrick, I don't want to say we've seen the end of Sean Kilpatrick because we haven't, but I think he's not going to be cracking the rotation to start off the season. I think that he's played too inconsistently, and I think he's going to be on the roster, and he's going to be on the active roster. But I think him and Anthony Bennett, I think, are going to be kind of 11 and 12th man reserve players. Like third string players if players get hurt or somebody's struggling or foul trouble. Because I don't see him cracking the rotation. Because I think the biggest player that has surprised me, and not only surprised me, I actually like him, is Joe Harris. And I know when I did my last episode or 2 episodes ago with the Nets free agency, I said, Joe Harris, who's going to be irrelevant. That's what I said. I am very impressed by Joe Harris. I think, first of all, obviously Kenny Atkinson likes him because you saw him cracking the rotation. He was the main rotation that Kenny Atkinson shows is he's showing a Jeremy Lin, Randy Foye, Hollis-Jefferson, Trevor Booker, Brook Lopez starting lineup, which I think is what you're going to see to start off. And then he had Vasquez, Bogdanovich, and then Joe Harris, as well as Scola and Hamilton as the main reserves. And I think that's what's going to happen. And Joe Harris, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of J.J. Redick. His ability to knock down the 3-ball, to come off screens, hit the open shot, hit that mid-range 2 off the screen. A versatile player, not that bad at slashing to the basket either, though he's more of a perimeter player. But he's got that J.J. Redick style of play, which I think will really help this Nets team. The Nets haven't had a great perimeter player like that since Anthony Morrow, and Anthony Morrow is more of just kind of like a spot-up 3 shooter. Joe Harris is a guy who can come off screens and shoot off the dribble. I think he's going to be a very good player for this Nets team. He really fits what they're doing, and I've been very impressed with Joe Harris. So, I'm shocked, but pleasantly surprised. And if he plays the way he played in the preseason, he's going to be in the rotation. I think he's going to be very good. Like I said, those 10 players that I mentioned are probably going to be the main guys to start off. I think Sean Kilpatrick and Anthony Bennett will be the odd guys out who will be on the team, but only play due to injury. I told you that Chris McCullough and Isaiah Whitehead are expected to maybe be in the D-League for a part of the season. Karis LeVert, he hasn't played yet because he's still hurt, so we don't really know what's going to happen with him. And then Yogi Ferrell, we'll see if he even makes the team. Cuts have to happen. Final cuts need to happen by next Monday. I think the Nets might offer him a D-League contract, so he won't be on the active roster but be in the D-League, because I think the Nets do like him, and I think he is a decent player, but we'll see what happens. But overall, I think this Nets team is pretty much what I expected. They're a capable team. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to stretch the floor. They're going to get a lot of people involved. It's going to be Lopez and Lin doing a lot of the scoring, and then probably Bogdanovich will be the third lead scorer. I do think it's interesting the way Bogdanovich was not in the starting lineup, which I don't know if that's something Kenny Atkinson is going to continue to do, if he's going to stick with Foye, or if he's going to plug Bogdanovich in. He only just didn't start Bogdanovich because, Bogdanovich played in the Olympics and he wanted to give him some time off. I don't know. Personally, I think Bogdanovich should start because he has a history of kind of playing better as a starter than coming off the bench. But maybe Kenny Atkinson wants to balance out the second unit and have more offensive firepower in the second unit by having Bogdanovich there. I don't know. But, I think this Nets team, I think I'm pretty spot on when I said last episode, 30 wins. I think that's really accurate. I think this is a very good gauge of the Nets, what they're going to be offensively and defensively. Like I said, their defense is going to be an issue. And if they can play good defense, though, they can be better than 30 wins. If they don't play very good, if they play the way they played defensively in the preseason, they're going to be about a 25 to 30 win team. That's the truth. But I'm pretty much impressed by Joe Harris, and that's about it. Everyone else is pretty much what I've expected. Maybe Jeremy Lin is definitely looks good too, though. So we'll see what happens. So now let me just quickly go through the first few games and what I expect. So the Nets got the Celtics for the season opener, Pacers, Bucks, Bulls, Pistons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look, I think the Nets are better than the Pistons and better than the Bucks. So I'm expecting a 2-3 record to start through the first 5 games. And then they got the Hornets. I think the Nets can beat the Hornets. So I think that they can go 3-3 in the first 6. Timberwolves, we'll see what happens. I think they'll probably lose that game. The Knicks, they'll probably lose that game. But then the Suns, I think they're better than the Suns. So I see a 4-6. I think that's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, no, excuse me. That's 9. I see a 4-5 record to start off the season for the Nets. Maybe 3-3. Nothing, to start. That's my expectations. We'll see what happens. Anything worse than 3-6, I think the first 9 games will be a little bit of a disappointment. What's their 10th game there? Clippers, they'll lose that game. So I think anything worse than 4-6 or 3-7, I think would be a bad start for the Nets. I'm giving you the first 10 games because my next NetsBoy episode is my 100th episode, and it's taking a lot of time to do. And I'm going to be honest, I do not want to put another video before my 100th episode because then obviously it subtracts from the 100th episode. So you're not going to see a NetsBoy episode for a while probably until the 100th episode is done. So I'm right now telling you my expectations through the first 10 games to try to cover the first few weeks of the season. So I think a 3-7 record should be the worst they do. I think they could be as good as a 5-5 record through the first 10 games, and I'm expecting 4-6. We'll see. So that will conclude the NetsBoys' first 99 episodes, as well as the Nets preseason. Like I said, the next episode will be NetsBoys' 100th episode, which baffles me that I've made it this far because I really didn't think I was going to do this long. But I've gotten a lot more subscribers and a lot more viewers within the last few months, which has given me so much motivation to actually continue to do these videos because I actually have somewhat of a fan base, which I never would have imagined. So I'm doing everything I can to get this 100th episode done as soon as possible. I think you're going to really enjoy it. And keep your eyes open. It's still probably going to be a couple weeks before you see it. So just keep your eyes open for that. And after the 100th episode, I'll go back into my regular routine of one video every week talking about the previous Nets games. So there's the Nets preseason. Comment below what you expect from this Nets team this season, as well as what your reaction is to how the Nets played in the preseason, and anything else you want to comment and talk about. I love it. Keep your eyes open. And until my 100th episode, till then, this is NetsBoy signing off.